Recently, I had to embark upon the search for a new medical doctor. About a year and a half ago, right before I got the call to be the pastor here, I had to have rotator cuff surgery on this shoulder. And as you know, when you go in for surgery, you always have to go to your primary care physician to get clearance for the surgery. So when I called to make the appointment, I found out that my beloved doctor, who I had had for at least 15 years, who knew my medical history well, who I would consider a personal acquaintance, I knew him from the neighborhood, a friend, somebody who was always there when I needed him. Even though I may not have gone every single year for my physical and checkup, whenever I was having a difficult time, whenever I was sick, he was there and I called him. Well, I found out that when I went to make this appointment to get my clearance for surgery, that he had to abruptly retire because of some questionable activities. So I ended up going to the doctor who was his replacement, and it wasn't the same. This doctor seemed to be in a rush. It seemed like every time I shared with him a symptom or a concern, he was suspicious of it. And finally, when he did talk to me and tell me what I needed, it was in a condescending tone. So I decided once I got through this surgery and everything, that's it, I'm going to find a new doctor. But I procrastinated. Because finding a new doctor for me is like buying a new car. There's nothing fun or good about it. So it was finally right before Thanksgiving, because of a reference from somebody here in the congregation, that I finally found a new doctor. And I'm happy to report to you, so far, so good. But maybe some of you have recently been in this situation where you've had to find a new doctor. Maybe with all the changes that are going around in the healthcare industry, you've lost your doctor has retired, or whatever it may be. And if you've had to search for a new doctor, you know that this is a very personal and intimate thing. That your relationship with your main doctor is a relationship of trust. Your doctor deals with and sees things that very few other people that you know in the world have to see and deal with. You want to trust that the doctor is competent. You want to trust that the doctor is going to be there for you. You want to trust that when you do go to the doctor and he diagnoses your issue, that he's going to treat it in the right way and you're going to get better. If you don't have a doctor and something goes wrong, it can be a very scary and vulnerable place to be. Every year, this fourth Sunday of Easter is affectionately known as Good Shepherd Sunday. It's a day where we can celebrate and reflect upon how Jesus is that good shepherd and all that that picture connotes and brings up for us as we live as the people of God. There is so much artwork in the church's history that show this picture of Jesus more than anything else, from windows to pictures to paintings, whatever it may be. Even when you go into the church's offices and you walk through the hallways, there's a big picture on one of the walls of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. The 23rd Psalm that we sang a moment ago is probably the most beloved and memorized parts of all the Bible. And it's appropriate for all sorts of occasions, from weddings to funerals. We love how the Lord is our good shepherd, who leads us by his rod and his staff and brings us comfort. That picture of the good shepherd leading the sheep, laying down his life for the sheep, giving trust and love, is so powerful and beautiful. And I love how this year, Good Shepherd Sunday and Mother's Day converge. Because don't we have the same feelings and sentiments towards our mothers? Isn't it the same type of love, the same type of relationship that gathers us together as the people of God? And through the history of the church has then appointed under-shepherds, pastors, to lead people to the Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ. And as a matter of fact, if you didn't know it, that title, pastor, comes from the old Latin word for herdsman or shepherd. There's an intentional connection that pastors, as under-shepherds of the Good Shepherd, are to point to and let people hear the voice and see the love of the Good Shepherd Jesus. And during the history of our Lutheran church and the evolution of it, there has been another word that has been associated with the pastor as the under-shepherd of the Good Shepherd. It's a German word called the Seelsorger. That word literally means in German, doctor or healer of the soul. We think about what our medical doctors do for our bodies, right? how they apply their expertise in order to make us better and keep us healthy. And in the same way, the pastor, as shepherd, under shepherd, and Seelsorger, is to apply those same techniques to our soul, to our spiritual health, and our spiritual well-being. Back in the 1980s, during the Palestinian uprising, Israel was having such a problem and conflict with one of the towns right outside of Bethlehem that they finally confiscated all the livestock and the animals of the people in the village so that they had a hard time living. They wanted this conflict to be resolved. They wanted their taxes. So they took all the animals and they incarcerated them in a big fenced-in area with soldiers around it. Well, one day, one of the women from the village had recently lost her husband. And so she came to the captain of the guard that was guarding all the animals. She explained her situation. She lost her husband, and that the sheep, the few sheep that she had, were her primary source of life and income. And she asked if the soldier would let her go in and have her sheep so she could continue living. And he kind of laughed at her and looked at the hundreds and hundreds of sheep in there and said, "Sure, if you can find your sheep, go ahead, you can have them," thinking she would never do it. So she entered into the fenced-in area, and her son came with him, and he pulled out a flute, and he started playing the same tune over and over again. All of a sudden, heads were popping up all over the hundreds of sheep that were in that pen. And all of a sudden, then 25 sheep walked behind the woman and her son right out the gate. She smirked and smiled at the officer, and they went on their way home as her son played the tune. Doctors have incredible tools to do their job to make us better, to follow through with their oath, to do no harm to anyone who comes to them for help. From the stethoscope, to the needle, to the x-ray, to medications, to surgery, whatever it may be, these are their tools to help us with our bodies. And pastors, as under-shepherds and Seelsorgers, also have specific tools with which we can apply the care of God. Our primary tool is the voice of the Good Shepherd. What we heard about in the gospel lesson, to let the voice of the Good Shepherd permeate what we teach, what we say, what we do, so God's people, the sheep, are led to safety, led away from harm, led to the flock and the pasture and the sheep pen, where they can be protected from the struggles, from the thieves of the world. The job of the pastor as Seelsorger is to let the voice of Jesus as the gate be that which lets his people come and go safely and freely in the love and the mercy that he offers. I heard the story recently of a local church that during the season of Lent sent out a letter to all the people who had not been in church in a long time. And the letter started out with promise. It started to outline all the reasons why somebody may not come to church anymore. And it felt as though in the letter it was leading to a climax of a reintroduction, an opportunity of grace to come back, renew the relationship. We'd love to have you back. But that's not where the letter went. The letter all of a sudden changed tone. And the letter then said, so if you do not respond to this letter and come back to church in 30 days, we're going to assume you don't want to be a part of us anymore, and we're going to take your name off the membership rolls and take your name off the mailing lists. Listen again to the words of the Good Shepherd Jesus. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved and will come in and go out and find pasture. Sheep know the voice of the shepherd. Sheep also know when the voice is not safe, when the voice is not welcoming, when the voice is dangerous. On this Good Shepherd Sunday, there's another passage that talks about Jesus as the Good Shepherd that I think we all know and love, that enhances that picture that we have of him as the Good Shepherd. It's that passage about the Good Shepherd leaving the 99 sheep in the safety of the pen to go find the one little lost sheep. I may be confused, but I didn't know that God's grace and love as our Good Shepherd had an ultimatum or a time limit connected to it. When my doctor wasn't there anymore, it was a vulnerable and uncomfortable time for me. The church and her pastors must always keep in mind the safety of the sheep, so the voice of the Good Shepherd can welcome into the presence of God those who are hurting, those who are struggling, and those who are lost. The church, this church, all of us, as the baptized into the resurrected Christ, are called here as the people of God, not only to hear the voice of the Good Shepherd, but to reflect that voice to others, to welcome others into this safe place, this sanctuary, this sheep pen, where people can come to find what they need. So when we do what Peter talked about in our opening reading today in the book of Acts, when we devote ourselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers, then what happened in the early church after the Pentecost with the apostles will continue to happen here. Day by day, the Lord will add to the number of those who are being saved. Amen.